if folks listening to this would just consider that what you just said is a wonderful way to share vulnerability. I don't have the answer. My team's going to miss the deadline. We own it, but we're going to miss the deadline. Hey, I'm struggling over here. I sure could use your help. These are all forms of vulnerability. And if we would just understand that letting people see that we are human, that we do have, weaknesses and flaws just like everybody else, and kind of act on that, I think that collaboration would increase, trust would increase. You talk about the trust formula all the time. There's so many things that get activated when we practice vulnerability well.
Okay, Randy, I got lots to say to this. Excellent. Okay. So when I think about vulnerability, and the way I want everyone listening to this to think about it as a swimming pool. As Randy kind of said, it's kind of, 0 to all in. You think of it as the pool. So you can get in and just kind of put your feet in and get in the shallow end of the pool, wade in a little bit. You can get into where it's about waist level. Okay. And then of course you can go where you're underwater, right? It's a deep end of the pool. Okay. We don't necessarily need to talk about deep end of the pool. That might be saved more for people really, really special in our lives. And that's where intimacy lives. So if you want intimate conversations, intimate relationships, whether they're professional or personal, you can't have it without vulnerability. Okay. That's the mic drop statement. If you want deep relationships, you can't do it without vulnerability. And so that deep end of the pool, we may save that for our personal relationships, but the shallow end of the pool, yes, we need to be doing that. And the reason why that is so important, as Randy said, is it really helps to invite people to come along with us. Now, why it's so counter to our instinct is because we're a leader. We just got promoted. We're now a senior vice president. We should have all the answers. So now, Brandon and Randy, you're telling me I'm going to go out there and tell folks I don't have the answers? Yes, that's exactly what we're telling you, when appropriate. But if you'll notice,
because nothing will draw people to you more than anything.
Yes, and the way Randy said it, I want you to listen real close, because when Randy used phrases, he was using them in a way that was balancing masterfully vulnerability and still showing I have confidence. I've still got it. My team owns this. Okay. He's confidence. I'm a leader, and we're going to miss the deadline. Let's talk about that. Okay. So there's this balance of, I'm not losing anything by being vulnerable. I think we think that we're losing our power when we're vulnerable. And all that work that Brene Brown does tells us that that's actually not true. So Randy, you're going to appreciate this. I think this reminds me of the Seinfeld episode where George Costanza decides he better just do the opposite of everything he's ever done before. So if you know that episode of Seinfeld, George realizes things aren't going well in his life, and he just decides, I'm just going to start doing the opposite. So, he goes in and interviews with the New York Yankees, and he's like, Mr. Steinbrenner, these are all the reasons why you've run this club horribly. And then at the end, Steinbrenner says, hire this man. So I think it's the same thing, because our instinct is not going to tell us to be vulnerable. Our instinct's going to say, hey, you should put more armor on. You should get more weapons out. That's how you keep yourself safe. And all it does is it makes other people do the same thing. Okay. So let me say that again. We match levels to people. If you come into a meeting armored up, that is going to naturally encourage the other party to do the same thing. So if you've got a peer you've got conflict with, and you're like, I'm going to come in with all the reasons why they're screwing up, and I'm with all the data, and you better be prepared, they're going to do the same thing. And now you're going to court. And I don't think I don't think we're trying to litigate with our colleagues. So another way to think about it. So Randy, that was all the stuff going on in my head. And I wanted to give you a little George Costanza to kick off our day today.